Hey everybody, welcome back. And not a whole lot of tidbits, so we've got two little micro tidbits and then the bigger story. So first and foremost, American Express has announced a Centurion Lounge for Boston's Logan Airport at Terminal C. I think this is the second or third. Could be the fifth for all I care. But new Centurion Lounge at Terminal C, that is opening in 2027. So there you go. That's the first piece. Second piece, you can purchase IHG points for half a penny per point, or as it's being published, a 100% bonus on the points that you purchase. So you have to purchase 5,000 points minimum to get the 100% bonus. I believe the max number of points you can buy in a year is, and I'm doing this off the top of my head, at least 150,000. So you can pick up 300,000 points. Now, if the cap is lower, my apologies. I'm going to put the 1 Mile at a Time article for that in the description, as well as the 1 Mile at a Time article for the Centurion Lounge. One source, just make it easier, but it's been all over the place today. So there you go. Now, the bigger thing I wanted to talk about is that old chestnut, the Apple Card. So new reports came out yesterday that Goldman Sachs' CEO said that Goldman Sachs is more than willing to let Apple out of its contract before 2030. Well, obviously they're more than willing to do that. We know that the relationship is irreparably done. We've known since the end of 2023 that Apple was looking to find a new issuer for the credit card. So coming out and saying we're fine letting them out of the contract is the most we know possible. Now, what hasn't been indicated in the article or any of the articles that I've read, whether it was from Mac Rumors or Apple Insider or the attached Reuters piece or even the 9 to 5 Mac piece on this update from the Goldman Sachs CEO, is where Apple is with negotiations. There are sources saying that Apple is negotiating with both Barclays and Synchrony. Barclays would make a lot of sense. They previously issued an Apple credit card before it was the iTunes credit card, but it was an Apple-related credit card before the Apple Card came out because the Apple Card was going to be a fundamentally different card. And I think Barclays taking on the Apple Card as it is now should be okay. Now, the reason why I say Barclays first is it was recently, when all of this came up about Goldman Sachs and how much money Goldman Sachs loses, the big number was they've lost somewhere around $7 billion. I would imagine that Barclays, they don't have a spare $7 billion just sitting around, but Barclays is about to make a lot of bank on losing the Hawaiian card, because right before Hawaiian Airlines announced their merger, that they were being merged with Alaska, then the merger was complete, Barclays snuck in and added a 10-year extension to their credit card agreement. Yeah, the kill fee for that is going to be amazing for Barclays. Now, that's not the only kill fee that Barclays is going to get so far, because Barclays also fell into a nice, not even a headwind, tailwind, potentially even more money available to then shift focus to, let's say, the Apple Card, when American Airlines and Citi announced that Citi will be the exclusive issuer of American Airlines credit cards starting in 2026. So I'm sure there's some negotiated price for Citi, and Citi would be taking on Barclays' backbook of cards and card holders and those card accounts. There's going to be some amount to that number, and it's going to be in the billions. Now, I don't know how many billions it's going to be. I think for Citi, it would be malpractice for that number being north of $5 billion, because the American Airlines cards generate $5.8 billion per year in spend. And so if you have to spend $5 billion to get Barclays' backbook, you have put yourself into a very early hole. And you really need one-to-one transfers to get out of that. And again, American Airlines, since it's not guaranteed right now, has no reason to do that business-wise. So Barclays is coming out ahead with that as well. So they're going to get a mighty kill fee from Bank of America and Alaska Airlines. They're going to get some sort of kill fee from Citibank and not necessarily American Airlines, and also not necessarily Alaska Airlines, but they will technically have like breach of contract, even they snuck that contract in at the last minute. So Barclays is about to come into a good chunk of money. Now, Barclays also has other travel assets that it could sell off, because in recent months, there were rumors that Barclays was looking to get out of the travel co-branded business. Now, they have a lot of bad cards, like their cruise line cards are all pretty bad. The Lufthansa card is not particularly good. The JetBlue no annual fee card is a little weak, but no biggie. But the cruise lines are all pretty bad. The Alaska card, the Hawaiian card wasn't particularly strong. Just a card that was there, but that's being taken care of. Now, they do have some potentially valuable brands, and Emirates. The Emirates cards and that back book, however big it is, probably not very big. Those cards, and based on potential uses of Emirates points and the potential value of those cards, if you're flying Emirates or have any interest frequently flying Emirates, those could be valuable to the bigger players. Emirates might want to move on to potentially a Chase, or maybe Citi takes that on as well, or American Express. Any of Emirates' transfer partners would make a lot of sense. Capital One could also be stalking in the background because they don't have an airline co-branded card. It'd be weird to start with Emirates, but, you got to start somewhere. JetBlue, same thing. There would be a bidding war for the JetBlue cards. It should Barclays decide to put those up for sale. I could see Capital One. I could see Citi. I could see Chase, all as transfer partners. American Express is also a transfer partner with JetBlue. You could also see Wells Fargo come out of the ether and try to grab that card, that setup of cards. Citi, Chase, and American Express are all transfer partners. I want to say Capital One is also a transfer partner, although I don't have their transfer partner list right at the very top of my head. And Wells Fargo could add JetBlue as a transfer partner and pick up their co-branded credit cards as well. Next set of potentially seriously valuable travel credit cards that they could sell off would be the Wyndham cards. You'd also be looking for someone who doesn't have a whole lot of hotel cards at their disposal. Capital One makes sense as a transfer partner, especially at 1-to-1. They would benefit the most from picking up the Wyndham cards, because then they could say, well, we've got Wyndham as a transfer partner at 1-to-1, and we are the exclusive issuer of Wyndham credit cards. So come with us if you want to build out your Wyndham or Vacasa point piles, potentially. So they've got those three brands, and then Lufthansa could potentially be valuable if the card was restructured, but I don't know who would take that card on right now. And Lufthansa isn't a transfer partner with anyone. That credit card is the only way to generate Lufthansa points, with the exception of purchasing them directly from Lufthansa. So we'll see. But Barclays, that's a very long tangent and rant about what Barclays has to offer in terms of getting rid of its travel portfolio. They want to get back into store co-branded cards. Apple would be the king card to do that. So I could see them continuing to sell off their back book of, they'll get the most for Emirates because known brand. They'll probably get the second most for Wyndham, known brand. They'll probably get the third most for JetBlue, especially if the JetBlue card especially if whoever is going to buy their book also takes on the JetBlue Premium card, which I am assuming is going to have some pretty strong multipliers, because the JetBlue Plus and the JetBlue Earner aren't particularly strong. 2 times dining, 2 times grocery is nice, but both cards offer that, and then it's just a difference in what you get for JetBlue flights. I think the JetBlue Premium card has to be, 8 to 10x JetBlue points per dollar on JetBlue purchases, but what do I know? So JetBlue's in a position, a really unique position, to fully transition away from what they were doing, bring in the biggest name they can in terms of a store co-branded card, and have enough money to ride the losses while trying to figure out getting it profitable. So Goldman has lost, $7 billion in the last 5.5 years. Barclays could be in a position where they don't have to touch anything that they currently hold or are currently making. Just the sales of these travel co-branded cards could subsidize the losses on a new Apple card through Barclays, where Barclays can go to Apple and say, everything you were doing before, you know what? For the first X years, we're going to do that. The other bank, Synchrony, I don't know that Synchrony wants to deal with those potential heavy losses, especially when those losses were $7 billion. They are more capable of taking on subprime lenders, subprime borrowers. So there is the case there for Synchrony. The other banks being mentioned, Chase was in It was rumored that Chase was in discussions in December. How likely that is, I don't know, because Apple's going to stick to their terms and Chase is going to stick to their we want to make money. And those two ideas are like oil and water. That's why American Express isn't going to be jumping in. The other thing with American Express, Apple's contract with MasterCard runs until 2026. So you're not going to see American Express step in and say, we want to be the issuer of your credit card, but we're also going to do it through the MasterCard network. That's not how American Express operates. So American Express, I'm sure, would be out. Leaving that to the big banks, Chase, there's a potential for Chase, but everybody would want Chase to be the ultimate reward, would want the points, or would want points produced off of the Apple Card. Not a whole lot of stores offer to do that. The only one that really comes to mind is AT&T, so there is precedent for doing it, but you're not really going to get the Apple Card producing ultimate reward points. I just don't see it. So Chase is a long way out. Wells Fargo, I don't see. Capital One, I could see with their subprime lending, especially with the addition of Discover. I think they're still going to be figuring that out and don't have a way to really get over the finish line unless they are like very deeply in discussions and nobody knows about it. So without knowing that, and without that being a unique possibility, I doubt you're going to see Capital One. So for major banks, Barclays is probably in the best position. Then Synchrony makes the next most sense. And then it's kind of the Wild West because it just doesn't make sense for Apple to go anywhere else, especially while Apple has their contract with Goldman until 2030. That is actually like the biggest thing. Apple is going to go out and get the best deal for Apple. Apple doesn't need to and really has no hard deadlines until 2026. And in 2026, all Apple will really be doing is saying, hey, MasterCard, do you want to re-up with us? Oh, you don't? Hello, Visa. Would you like this very interesting card that, we ingrain a lot of tech into? Yes? Okay, cool. Or they turn to American Express and say, American Express, you have a very closed loop network. We like that about you. What do you say about taking on this card? There would be an actual bidding war on the payment network side of things between the big three payment networks. Again, I don't know where Capital One and Discover would fit into that. So the Apple Card saga continues. They said in late 2023 that it was going to be a 12 to 15 month process. 12 months is already gone. 15 months will probably be gone in February. It sounds like there's a sort of final three between Barclays, Synchrony, and Chase. Barclays is probably in the best position to take that on. They have a long-term relationship with Apple. They're about to get paid for two of their back books. That money alone, depending on how much they get from Bank of America and from Citi, they could subsidize the losses for a while. Because $7 billion over 5.5 years for Barclays, that's going to be something of a rounding error, so they can make it work. So there you go. All right, that's all I have for now. We'll see what ends up happening with Apple Card because it is a situation that I am very fascinated in. I am also an Apple Card holder, and I want to see, just the things that make the Apple Card continue to stay in place. I like the 0% financing on Apple products. I like the daily rewards being generated. I don't need it to be much more than that. 2 times earning card, 2% earning card, nice. The HISA attached is also nice, but I don't necessarily even need the HISA to be attached. Just give me the daily earnings and I will go on my way. So that'll do it for this one. If you like what I do, hit the like and subscribe button down below. Check out the pinned comment for ways to support me outside of YouTube. You can support me here on YouTube by becoming a channel member. That would be a huge help. Check out the Stack Your Points podcast. That is the podcast I do on Monday nights with RJ from Do You Take Cards, Tariq from Reeks Rewards, Lonnie from Call Me Lonnie. We record on Monday nights. We let out the portions of the show over the week. And finally, check out the 2 videos that will pop up at the end of this screen. One that the system thinks you'll like, the other being my most recent upload. So definitely check those out. Thanks for watching. Talk to you soon. Bye for now.